Hello everyone and welcome to the 4-Panel Christmas Annual. We're back with a teeny tiny little treat to keep you warm and comics filled in the festive period. I'm Andrew, and as per usual, I'm joined by my co-host Rob.
Hello.
And Mick.
Hello.
So, like I said, this is going to be a somewhat shorter episode. Thought we could just talk about kind of the best books that we've been reading this year. And the ones we've reviewed on the show, ones we've been reading off the show. Not even necessarily things that have come out this year, just things we've discovered in 2019.
Yeah. Although it won't necessarily be that short a show, because there will be that bit, because it's the annual, where I get 3 bits of string and hide a pile of comics at one end of one of the bits of string, and you have to find the correct path to the comics.
Oh my god, the 4-panel puzzle page.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to kick things off with a bit of manga, and I think you might like this.
Gasp, I am surprised.
This is not one we've covered on the show at all. It's called The Way of the House Husband, or in Japanese, Goku Shufudo, and it's about an ex-Yakuza called Immortal Tatsu. He's given up the violence in order to make an honest man out of himself, and he's basically become like a stay-home dad type thing.
That does sound rather delightful.
It's superb. Imagine every good fish out of water comedy that could involve a Yakuza, and then just crank up the comedy. Everything is played completely straight, not for comedic purposes, but it ends up hilarious because it's done like that. Like when he answers the door for the mail for the very first time, and he answers it as if he's still part of the Yakuza, and the mailman's just becomes terrified because there's just this gangster in an apron with a dog head on it.
Oh, I was literally just about to ask, does he wear an apron?
Yes, he does.
And knowing he does makes me very... I assume he's like covered in tattoos.
Basically, yeah.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
It's one of the funniest things I've read in the last, 5 years.
Nice. Mick, have you got something?
Well, I too am rapidly getting a new favourite that also hasn't been covered on the show. This is not really a best of 4-panel annual, is it?
I mean, it's a best of 4-panel in that we are 4-panel.
Yeah, it's the best of not comics that we've read on 4-panel.
Oh, good. That's my brain leaking out my nose. 4-panel, the deleted scenes.
That's December in a nutshell, isn't it? Brains leaking out of noses.
Yes.
So, yeah, the one I'm reading at the moment is Wage Slaves.
Oh,
which,
isn't this the one that we got from Turnaround?
Yeah. It's quite crude artwork.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the point. You know, like a lot of manga, you've got these mangas that are devoted to salarymen.
Yeah.
And it's just about workaday people and their lives. It's that, but Western.
See, I remember when you first looked at this, when I first dished it out to you, you were kind of, not sure about this one.
I know, but then I started reading it. And it's a slice of life that everyone over a certain age can kind of resonate with. It's about that first time away from home. That first time moving to a new location, not having the money, not having this, not having that, finding out that everything's more expensive than you think. And regardless of what the situation is, even if you haven't actually sort of left home, but you've just had to spend a week on a training course or something like that, and you've had to visit their London or somewhere like that, and suddenly instead of paying £2.50 for a pint, you're paying £7.95, or that kind of displacement. It's fish out of water, but it's familiar looking water.
Yeah.
And it just really captures that feeling of alienation. So it's basically an autobiography of the writer-artist's journey themselves when they left home in Warsaw to go to Malmo to study comics and the writing thereof at school. And all the sofa surfing and house sharing and stuff like that has to go on. And it just evokes so many memories of alienation and discomfort, but at the same time, camaraderie amongst people that are in a similar situation to yourself. And I'm only sort of like, the first chapter in, she hasn't even started at school yet, but it's just so endearing, and the naivety of the artwork kind of adds to that sort of innocence. So, yeah, that's really good. I'm really enjoying that one. But you're right, when I first saw it and it was shrink-wrapped and I looked at it, I thought, oh, he's given me another one of those ones that's just a collection of comic book or webcomic pages, hasn't he?
Yeah. That does sound like something we would do too.
It does.
is. But it is something that, when it happens now, if I cotton onto it quickly, Rob starts wearing those comics internally.
Do I?
You will do. Luckily, you haven't given me any since Madeline's Monsters.
Oh,
You've not given me anything that obviously bad since Madeline's Monsters.
See, the way you said it made it sound like I'd given you some kind of disease.
You gave me Madeline's Monsters. There is no cream. There is no ointment. But don't forget, when you do get to the 4-panel puzzle page, turn to page 93 for the upside-down answers.
See, I thought you were going to say, turn to page 93 for the which ointment do you put on Mick's skin puzzle.
Oh, no, that's part of the quiz on page 48.
Fantastic.
And don't forget to turn to the inside back cover for the massive crossword.
Anyway, Andrew.
So, I think, since we're all sort of doing things that haven't been on the show, / haven't been on the show yet, I wanted to talk about something that I have actually only just started reading last week, I think, because pretty much everyone on the internet has been going on about how incredible it is. And that is, surprisingly, Transformers: More Than Meets the Eye by James Roberts and Alex Milne. And, Transformers, the toys, they're a robot, then they're a truck, then they're kind of halfway in between because you forgot how you're supposed to transform them, and then you chuck them in a cupboard.
And then there are a series of explosions because Michael Bay got involved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I think that's the basic point, is it? They're certainly something that I liked as a kid, but they were always very, it's just empty, big bang, explodey, fun stuff.
You see, this is why I was always jealous of the young generations when it came to toys. Because, we got Action Man, or the $6 Million Man, and it stayed resolutely Action Man, or the $6 Million Man. I mean, you could occasionally change Action Man's uniform so that he became a member of the Marines instead of the Army, but essentially he was still Action Man.
Oh, no. He wasn't.
He never turned into space-travelling robot.
No.
Or motorbike.
But he did turn into Action Man, who was definitely up to something when they gave him his shifty eyes.
But yes, but he didn't change into anything other than shifty-eyed Action Man.
He went from normal Action Man to shifty-eyed Action Man. That was a massive change for a young boy like me.
That was a game changer for the Action Man toy line. It has to
anyway,
be
Transformers.
But Transformers, yeah.
So
we didn't have things that changed into other things. We didn't get 2 toys for the price of 1.
Well, speak for yourself. I was in that transition period where I had Generation 1 Transformers.
Anyway, Transformers: More Than Meets the Eye, the specific comic series. It's set. So the idea is all the big fighty wars are done, the Decepticons are beaten, the Autobots have won, and there's peace on Cybertron. And then the question arises of, now what? And kind of what do you do when you've got a whole army's worth of robots who are mostly kind of specifically designed for fighting, and now they've got making new society where they don't really have a place. So what a bunch of them decide to do is go off on this massive intergalactic journey to find the Knights of Cybertron.
You see,
kind of an ancient.
What I'm getting from this vibe is that you both basically read the same comic. It's just that yours is Transformers based, and Rob's is Yakuza based.
Well, no, because mine was about a Yakuza who decided to stay at home. He didn't go off looking for the Knights of House Husbands.
No, but you're both there with you've got certain skills, certain abilities, certain stuff, and they're now redundant.
Although, the House Husband version of Taken would be a very different film.
Yeah. So the idea is we're following this group of robots on this big rollicking space adventure. It's full of like action and really neat storylines. Like there's a whole thing where they go to a medical station and have to fight zombie robots.
Wow.
But then it's also like this really focused character stuff about, kind of living in a post-war world and dealing with trauma and like the ramifications of things you've done. It's like it's a comic about the robot toys that, turn into a jet and then they have the missiles that go should not be making me feel all these big emotions, but it is.
He's got a good point.
Mm.
It's a fair point, well made.
It is.
Yeah, so, big surprise. That comic book that everyone is saying is really good. It's actually really good.
Cool.
Well,
I will also say, though, if you want to get into it, it's like 10 volumes and then another 3 volumes of the follow-up series.
Jeez.
So it is a bit of an investment.
Yes. Something that we did actually cover on the show, and you guys have actually read yourselves, and I got around to reading as well. It's still in the comedy vein, but it is by far and away one of the best and funniest comic book experiences I've had.
I should also point out, Transformers More Than Meets the Eye. Very funny as well.
Yeah, I think this one might have it beat, though. I didn't expect this, because when I first saw this, I thought, how good could it really be? Because Mick covered it, and he sang its praises, and then you read it, Andrew, and you said it was a hoot and a half, and so I read it. And you know what? You were both absolutely correct, because Mystery Science Theater 3000...
It manages to pull off the impossible.
Yes. As far as discoveries of 2019 go, that's in the top 5 easily.
The thing about it is, it's one of those things where when it landed across our desk and we were divvying up who was going to review it, it was one of those things where you're immediately drawn to the logo on the cover and you think, I so want to do that. And then the minute you say that, you're thinking, this is never going to work, is it?
Exactly.
This is going to be a huge disappointment.
That's exactly the thought.
It's a format that you think just does not translate to comics.
No.
Yeah, you could see it working with maybe a TV show or something like that, but a non-moving media, maybe not so much. But it is awesome, isn't it?
It's so good.
So funny.
My particular favourite is the Talking Heads reference.
I think my favourite is just the constant Tino's Pizza Roll product placement.
And ever more elaborate.
Yeah.
The fact that they sat there and worked out all the jokes in a comic book format, that's dedication straight away.
It is. And the other thing I like about it is the fact that they've mimicked the style. When they've been inserting the MS3TK characters into the 50s comics,
Yeah.
they've mimicked the style perfectly. You often miss some of the insertion of those characters into the 50s comic or the public domain comic that they've riffed. And that little device of having that little nubbin on the end of the speech bubble to show the ones that have been edited, it makes it subtle enough that you can recognise where it's been edited to match the format, but it's not distracting enough to spoil it for you.
Yeah.
It's great. I demand volume 2 for Christmas.
Thing is, there's just some amazing, just straight up sight gags in this that if you're not reading it, then you won't get it.
Yeah.
But once you're reading it, I mean, there's one that made me just freeze because I thought that's in such bad taste, but it's so hilarious. And it's just, a guy's dead lying on a bed, and the way they've drawn his face is quite elongated, and the robot just appears from nowhere and goes, "Why the long face?"
And it's just it's the way that they so casually sort of point out sort of 50s comic tropes from those days of where you only had 4 colour printing.
Yeah.
For comic.
Yeah, like all the bits with weird shading where it's just kind of saying, and what the hell is on my face? Because it just looks like it's been scribbled over.
And of course she was so upset she just painted the entire kitchen pink. Yeah, brilliant. A brilliant comic. And I think my next one, in terms of, again, in that vein of, I really didn't think I was going to like this, but I did. Meet the Skrulls.
Yes.
Meet the Skrulls. It looked like it was just another one of those shameless tie-ins to an MCU film entry. And actually, it ended up being a really good, rip-roaring spy yarn.
Yeah, I think what I appreciated as well is it did what I feel like kind of a lot of these miniseries are kind of maybe a bit afraid to do, is actually tell a complete story.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't any of that sense of, oh, we've got to kind of hedge our bets in case we want to bring these characters back. And they even do end on a point where you could conceivably have a sequel to this story, but it doesn't feel like they're kind of holding back from delivering an actual conclusion.
No, that's right. It was one of those where, because it was called Meet the Skrulls, it had that sort of 50s sitcom feels to it. Even the cover looked a little bit sort of Terry and June-ish. But once you got into it, it was just so good. And the nature of the Skrulls is just so ripe for that kind of a storyline that it was really surprisingly enjoyable. And of course, the other thing with it was you didn't really need to carry the baggage of understanding the entire MCU or the Marvel Universe. As long as you understood that Skrulls can shapeshift, that was about it. There wasn't a huge backstory that you needed to be invested in.
Yeah, there's none of the usual asterisks. Don't worry, this makes perfect sense if you go back and read like 75 Fantastic Four comics.
Yeah. Anyway, if you'll excuse me, I've just turned to page 57 of the annual where there's a huge spot the difference thing, and I've got a frame from a DC Extended Universe film and a frame from an MCU film. And I'm trying to spot the difference. I think it's fairly straightforward. One is a coherent, interconnected set of movies, and the other one's a confused mess. But I'm going to look and see if I can find any more differences.
But which is which, listener? You decide.
Yep.
See, this is what we're doing now. This is how we get more listens. Stoke the fires on both sides. Let the world burn. Anyway, speaking of like problematic plans that could result in worldwide destruction, definitely one of my favourites this year that we've covered on the show is Matt Kint's Mind MGMT.
Yes.
Just this big sprawling tale of like weirdo conspiracy theorist psychic assassins who like are part of a government agency. It's just I love all the little references to kind of the sort of weird conspiracy theories you get, and even like weird real life stuff like Project MK Ultra. There's all this kind of obsession that what if the US government have like, got secret intelligence agencies and all these weird like pseudo mystic ways of communication, like communicate through dreams, or like writing letters that when you read them your brain explodes, and it's just a big old omnibus of all that kind of weirdness. And what I absolutely love is just all the little side details, like the fact that the omnibuses are packaged to look like psychology textbooks, and that there's kind of like at the end of issues are adverts for seemingly just benign products. But then they've got like what are supposed to be coded messages that now you can see because you're part of Mind MGMT. That's just, I love those little immersive touches that it has.
Well, I don't want to worry you, Andrew, but I went AWOL from 4-panel a bit in the summer for my exam.
That's right, what? Your exam.
The certificate came through the other day, and a letter accompanied it telling me that I am now allowed to use letters after my name. The letters I'm allowed to use are Cert MGMT.
Oh my God. He's a certified agent. That can...
So just be careful at the next meetup.
Yeah, there might be some rediscussion as to the distribution of comics. Rob, you can take all the ones we don't want to read.
No, because I got something that, well, we're talking about the greatest comics we've discovered this year. Some of them are things we've been sent by Turnaround for us to cover. We've already commented on a few of them. But we got sent something that we haven't had a chance to cover yet, and I really wanted to cover it. And I'm really glad we're doing the Discoveries of the Year, because we got sent William Gibson's Alien 3, and it's every kind of amazing.
Oh, is this the book where it's like a comic of the original, like, script for Alien 3?
Yeah, it's adapted by Johnny Christmas with colours by Tamara Bonvillain.
Ooh.
That's
interesting.
It's literally every kind of amazing that you want. Because
it's got like properly Newton Hicks in it as well, doesn't it?
Exactly. Imagine the best kind of Marvel what if story, but then transpose that to the Aliens universe and actually have somebody who really understands science fiction and cyberpunk at the helm as the main writer, as the main creator, and somebody who really gets the Alien franchise in general. And then you've got this version of Alien 3, and it's just, it quite literally pisses all over every different version of Alien 3 that there is.
It's not that difficult to do, though, is it?
Well, it is and it isn't, because you've got, at the last count, before they released this, you basically had two alternative versions of Alien 3. You had the movie version, which was what everybody ended up with, and then you had what was going on in the comics before the movie was actually released officially, which then made all those comics redundant. So you had things like Aliens, Earth War, and various things like that, which then ultimately became nonsense because the movie came out and the movie was very different to what everyone thought. Whereas William Gibson's Alien 3, it keeps a lot of the mystique about the aliens, but it keeps like all of the gore and the suspense and the tension, and it's just so good.
Nice. I know what I'm going to have to be taken off your hands at some point.
Yes, the thing is, it's bizarrely clean and bizarrely bright and vibrant with the colours, but that just adds to all of the actual darkness in there as well.
I'm just excited to, experience a good Alien story.
Yeah.
Which,
it's been so long.
Exactly. There's so few and far between. If anything, I feel like I was too harsh on Alien 3 earlier. Those were like the Harrison days. I remember watching Alien 3 and thinking, yeah, I bet
they've ruined the franchise.
Yes, this is the worst it can get.
Yeah, this was before we watched Alien 4 and Aliens vs. Predator and Prometheus.
Requiem.
To be fair, I don't count the AVP films in the same franchise, to be fair.
See, the AVP...
They're too different. They're too... They don't follow... They haven't got the same characters and stuff. They're just... It's like the TV spin-off version of Aliens.
When they did Aliens vs. Predator, I was really hoping that they'd push that, and then they'd go on to do the actual... one of the best Aliens Predator crossover comic book series, which was Deadliest of the Species. And they haven't. They've just totally ignored the existence of possibly one of the greatest AVP storylines.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the fact that the AVP franchise was pants.
Yeah, there's also that. And I guess there's enough bad films in the main franchise. We don't need to be bringing more in.
Yeah, but they could have done one of the best storylines in Aliens and Predator comic books.
But getting back to our main topic of favourite things of 2019.
Yes.
Obviously, we had the Alita movie.
Yes.
And in preparation for that, I started reading the Alita Deluxe Edition.
And you liked it, didn't you?
And I've read all 5 volumes, and I've now got Holy Night and Other Stories. And it's just so delightful. I need to get Last Orders. It's just brilliant. And the thing that ruins it for me is the fact that, although I loved the film as well, what spoiled it for me was that they've robbed themselves of so many sequels.
Exactly. That's the thing that annoys me the most, is that they had such potential with the film.
And it was a good adaptation, I think.
Oh, it's a great adaptation. Don't get me wrong.
It's just, I think it smacks of people who got hold of a franchise that they don't think is going to float. So they tried to cram as much of the franchise in as possible, still made a good film, and then thought, oh crap, we've used all the best storylines now.
I mean, to be fair to Alita, lots of her body is made of metal, so she probably doesn't float that well.
Oh dear. It'll be special metal, won't it?
No.
Martian.
There's we already know that she doesn't float that well. There's that scene in the movie where she has to go into the ship.
Yeah.
Also, why would Martians build metal that floats well? For all their many oceans.
They were attacking Earth.
Anyway, back over to me, I think.
Yes.
So
while Rob slowly dies in a corner.
So I can't wait for the 2022 man version of 4-panel, and not the too many that it was previously.
Anyway,
speaking of people who are in a bit of a bad state health-wise, I think my definite breakout hit for this year is Al Ewing and Joe Bennett's Immortal Hulk.
was it this year that it started?
I think
I got one early on in the year, and I wasn't that impressed.
I'd say this is the year when it really fell onto people's radars and. Really...
Oh no, it was November 2018. You know what? I don't care. I'm taking the entire game board, like the premise of this episode, and flipping it on its side.
Okay.
Listen, it's all right, Andrew. We've got a relatively intelligent audience. They realise that we pre-recorded this in August. They know that. They're not fools.
God, we could have pre-recorded this ages ago. We could have just been sat at home enjoying a nice winter coffee.
Yeah. As I say, they know we pre-recorded this in August.
This is why we need to plan things.
I blame it on the showrunner. Sorry, producer.
Anyway, Immortal Hulk. It's rad. It starts off being like, what if the Hulk was some kind of weird, vengeful spirit, like an ancient genie, and has now morphed into, what if the Hulk decided he was going to smash the greatest evil in the world, capitalism, and also maybe he's going to, at the end of time, eat a god, become the new Galactus, and destroy the universe.
Well, I'd have said, why couldn't he stand in the Stockton North constituency on Thursday?
There's some topical humour.
Hey, we couldn't have done that if we'd pre-recorded in August.
You're right. Also, it's just a hall of mirrors. What's even true? You don't know anymore, audience.
I don't. That's for definite.
Maybe there never was an Immortal Hulk comic. Maybe we made it all up.
I'm really confused now.
Our work here is done, Andrew.
There's also a bit where Hulk fights the Abomination, only Abomination's head is now just two giant hands. And then they open up to show that they're actually like the fused corpses of Emil Blonsky and Vic Jones, and then they spit acid. It's basically everything I want in a comic. Like just weird horror and punching businessmen who are also Minotaurs.
And I think we all know some of those.
I hope the Hulk eats Boris Johnson next.
Hey, I've just had a problem with this whole sort of 4-panel Christmas annual analog thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've just got to that bit, you know, where there's the big game board?
Yeah.
And you have to cut bits of the actual annual out in order to make the game counters.
Yeah.
How do we do that on a podcast?
I think the equivalent to that is like downloading the podcast, editing it in some audio editor, and just stitching our dialogue together so that we, I don't know, say praise Satan or something.
Okay. Wouldn't it just be easier for us to just record some bits where we say praise Satan?
Yeah, it probably would be easier if we just said praise Satan a few times.
Yeah. Praise Satan, praise Satan, praise Satan.
There you go, kids. There's your Christmas present.
I mean, it is Santa's anagram.
Yeah, so stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
And you never see them in the same room together.
Anyway, I think that probably does us for the year.
Yes.
What about our wish list for 2020?
This might be controversial, but in 2020, I would like there to be more good comics.
Well, in 2020, I would like to see Saint Young Men released in the UK finally.
Oh, that would be good.
I think that would really shake up the manga market in the UK, the release of that particular manga. It would also go a long way to upsetting a lot of the right people.
Actually, I know specifically what I'm looking forward to. Seeing what's going to be going on with the X-Men comics. Because this year we had House of X and Powers of 10. Jonathan Hickman's got a big shaking up of the line. So the X-Men, they're no longer hated or feared. They now live on like their own island. Basically, saying, screw y'all. We're just going to do our own thing. Also, we can't die now.
So, is it Major X or Major 10 then? And
it's actually Major Cross.
Is it Major Cross? And
because that's how everyone feels when they're reading the comic.
Is that because the thing is that it annoys the crap out of me, that Major Cross comic or whatever you want to call it. Is that part of the X-Men canon now?
Oh, Robin. And it's okay because it's not, because it turns out Rob Liefeld is maybe a bit of a whiny bitch.
People are only just noticing that now?
I mean, I feel like he had a period where he was just kind of, the chill Twitter dude who likes making silly jokes about pouches. But now that X-Men are popular again, he has become right insufferable.
Did people forget what he was like during the 90s? When he was insistent that his artwork was the best, and whenever somebody said, well, hang on, this doesn't look right to me, he'd spit his dummy out. How short your memories are, people.
Yeah. It's a good thing that this is only a problem in comics, and not maybe an issue on like a wider political scale.
You mean no one's asking questions in Parliament, and no one's trying to impeach Rob Liefeld?
Yeah,
No, because then you'll end up...
I guess that's the podcast's new official platform. Impeach Rob Liefeld.
No, we can't do that because given his temperament, he's going to say, impeach Liefeld, peach Liefeld. I want that dessert.
Get X-Men done. That's my wish for 2020. Get X-Men done. I don't care whether it's a hard X-Men or a soft X-Men. I just want X-Men done.
I was going to make a name joke, and then I realised it is. It's just Exit, isn't it?
Yes.
That's why I went down the X-Men route instead. It wasn't going to work the other way.
On that note, I think we're basically done.
I've got some notable runner-ups that were surprisingly good that I didn't actually get to list as favourites of the year.
Tell us in 2020.
I read an enjoyable Archie comic. There's a shocker for you.
Okay.
I found out that even just people who are associated with Meta Barons can be disappointing in their own right as well.
Yeah, this is not news to us. Anyone who's associated with Meta Barons becomes twisted in some way. We are proof of this, having only read about Meta Barons.
Meta Barons and Inkles. It's not a good mix. It changes people.
And not in good ways, people. Not in good ways. We've seen things.
Avoid Meta Barons and Inkles. That's our advice to you for 2020. And what?
And moon faces.
So
yeah, I guess that's it from us. Join us in 2020 for more of this nonsense, I guess.
Yep. With a new season of 4Panel in 2020.
New volume.
New volume.
We're a comics podcast, we use volumes.
Yeah, we've got to commit to the bit.
Yeah.
We've got a format. Let's stick to it.
So we'll be back in 2020 with volume 3 of 4Panel. And until then, you can catch up with all of our really, really extensively long first volume and our second volume, which is a bit more moderate in its length.
But hey, it's not the size of your volume, it's what you do with it.
Yes, it is.
And spoiler alert, issue 1 of volume 3 will probably be a reboot.
Does that mean we have to work out our origin stories all over again?
It does, but on the plus side, it also means we've just been bought out by Marvel.
Honest.
Ka-ching! All I want for Christmas is for Marvel to give us obscene sums of money to keep on doing this ridiculousness.
I knew that.
Wouldn't that be great?
I knew that rainbow print spandex onesie would come in handy someday.
No, you didn't. And no, it won't. I was just impressed you could get it in your size.
I have dreams, you know.
I'm not even sure if this is still the podcast.
We've had a bit too much.
That's very much dependent upon the editor.
Yeah, we've had a bit too much Christmas cheer now. I think it's time to go.
Step away from the mulled wine. Step away from the mulled wine.
He has a mince pie. Everybody be careful. He's got a mince pie.
This Christmas pudding's loaded, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Oh, that was a very different version of Die Hard. Now I have a mince pie. Right, okay.
Bobbles down and step away from the tree,
Yes.
or you'll be sorry.
Oh.
Yippee-ki-yay, reindeer.
Right, okay, now we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, so we're going to go.
We are, yeah.
We'll see you all in the new year.
Thanks for listening, ?
Goodbye now.